Alongside Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch. Last week we did the collab. This week he's just back on here, and it's because, especially when I'm solo, I like having Josh as a foil across the way to exchange thoughts and ideas, like in the salon of high-level discussion that we have. High level discussion. Josh, it was a wild week in the Big 12 when it came to coaching searches, and not because they had one. Now they do with Mark Pope leaving, but because Kentucky came after Scott Drew. He said no, and then they responded by going to one of their own, who was at BYU, and Mark Pope. What are your thoughts on Big Blue Nation and poaching a Big 12 coach and what that means for them going forward?
It's funny. So also, thank you for having me on, as always. So I was talking to our guy, Grayson Grunhafer, earlier today, and we were talking about Scott Drew turning down the job and how really it signaled there's a big change in college basketball now. And I'm not sure if there's ever like a difference, but like this is a big coach movement moment. And it's funny. It was all started by Rob Lanier getting fired at Southern Methodist, because at that point, Eric Musselman goes to USC. Then John Calipari goes to Kentucky. And now Mark Pope, and all the while, it's a big story out of all this too, is the coaches who are not moving, right? Beard is courted by Arkansas, decides not to go. Jerome Tang, courted by Arkansas, decides not to go. Will Wade might have been contacted as well until the chicken man, John Tyson, stepped up and got Cal to Arkansas. Then you've got Kentucky, who gets a no from Hurley. Then you got Kentucky, who gets a no from Scott Drew. And it's funny because, it was once again somebody who's in Arkansas. The number 3 option, like it was basically, we heard Will Wade was contacted. We heard no from no from Beard, no from Tang. Cal's the coach. And then Kentucky goes, no from Hurley, no from Drew. Mark Pope's the coach. So it was like the third one just kind of came out of nowhere. And it's this era now where guys are more willing to stay, or in Cal's case, guys are willing to leave if the price and the situation is correct. But mostly staying. Guys are more willing to stay. Yeah. Beard at Ole Miss is odd, right? Tang with the issues he had with the folks up top at K-State. Kind of weird that he's staying, right? And so it's it's kind of and look, I even say, hey, I'm surprised Scott Drew stayed, because if anybody would stay, it'd be him. But Kentucky is the basketball job. It is the college basketball job, full stop. Duke and Carolina are two kind of in their own, up their own you-know-whats. Kentucky is a large state school, middle of the country with great tradition, amazing arena, all of that stuff, and the cachet and then all those things that speaks to a wide range of people. And it's the job, and Scott Drew said no.
Yeah, part of it, though, like, the part of the reason I think guys are willing to stay, like, look, Scott Drew here, there are 2, as far as I know, Baylor message boards, ours and another one. And I've never heard anybody say anything like about him or his family in any kind of way other than like early on when they couldn't win, they get upset in the tournament. People are like, oh, this is Drew, and they kind of complain, but they never took shots. Big Blue Nation's a different thing altogether. Like, there's so many of them. They kind of like the crazies are able to hide amongst the normies.
A pack of rabid dogs.
Yes, and so here's all you need to know is that the guy who's coming there is a guy who helped them win a national title as a player in 1996, and they feel that that's good, but that's all you were good for right now, and we're mad that you're here.
Yes. So, because, I was talking with Grayson about this too. If you were to tell me that Kentucky hired a Big 12 coach, and you said, give me a list as a combo of who they target and who you think would be good there. I know he played there, but Mark Pope would maybe not be in my top 5. I would have been more honestly like, hey, Bill Self's like, I need a change. I'd be like, okay, but like, No, you don't. But also, okay, I guess I get it. Now his contract probably wouldn't have happened. Scott Drew would. I mean, I would not have been shocked if Jerome Tang once again. Like I know it'd be kind of weird, different, but I mean, he'd be a guy. T.J. Otzelberger with how good he has been. If Kelvin Sampson said, you know what, I'm old as hell, but he's honestly at the top of his game. I mean, Kelvin Sampson's never been, I think, like in terms of year to year to year, and this year sucks what happened, but like year to year to year, man, is he on a roll right now, unlike we've seen him. Did he win a national championship? I don't remember. Did he win one in Indiana?
No.
Yeah, he didn't. Right, so this is top of his game. I'd say all those guys before I got to Mark Pope. So
you know who I thought like would fit there, who I think would fit there and do well is Jamie Dixon. I mean,
yeah, I think those fans would have much like Mark Pope gotten mad at the lack of success because, like, I mean,
personality wise,
he's a floor elevator. He's a floor elevator for sure. Dixon is.
Yeah, like he's just personality wise someone who I think would fit like there, and I think Kentucky. Like, look, and I think Mark Pope will bring. I mean, the offense they'll like it there, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, you can recruit to Kentucky no problem if you know how to recruit at all, even at like a rudimentary level, because it's Kentucky, and he's far above that. I do think though that like you said Will Wade mentioned for the Arkansas job. I think Kentucky missed out by not at least kicking the tires on that. And part of it, I think, is Mitch Barnhart wanted someone that was so different than Scott Drew that Will Wade disqualified himself by being Will Wade.
Well, it's interesting. So Chris Beard has this non-compete that I think keeps people from, it sounds like it might have kept him in the Arkansas job. Will Wade, and this is all backstage talk, but like I've heard so much of it. There's almost an edict from Greg Sankey not to hire Will Wade. Mm-hmm. Like he's basically like, do not touch this guy. I think, look, I don't think Will Wade's made many friends in the old biz when it comes to administration. I actually think other coaches like him a lot.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he's made a ton of friends.
Yeah.
And so, you look at the guy, like the guy can coach, can coach his ass off. The funny thing is, what he got in trouble for is now technically legal. I mean, like now it's, allowed. Like, he wouldn't have to be on the phone anymore working the call. He could have somebody else be doing that for him. So, yeah, it's kind of weird that Will Wade didn't get as many looks because, I mean, the guy is just a tremendous coach. Like, he wins everywhere he goes, basically. So it was strange about that. But, yeah, it's been such a – and honestly, Paul, like this basketball coaching off season kind of became a little bit what football's coaching off season has been. It was just as interesting. We had this all happening simultaneous to UConn going back to back. It felt like almost a 2023 era where coaches were being circulated around. But it was like, well, we know Georgia's about to win this thing again. So, we're not really too worried about what Georgia's going to do. They're going to win it. But let's talk about the coaching more. The coaching carousel has been really exciting. It's been a really electric, exciting coaching carousel that includes some surprise stayers and some surprise movers. So I appreciate all of that.
All right, let's talk about those in the Big 12 in particular. West Virginia and Oklahoma State both had to get new coaches. Mike Boynton is now an assistant at Michigan, and then he's going to take assistant at Michigan to head coach at a place like, Georgia Southern or something.
No, Paul, we're going to manifest this. Darian DeVries gets hired somewhere else, and he goes to West Virginia. Let's get Mike Boynton back in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Because we all love him so much.
Yeah.
Or UCF, that they fired Johnny Dawkins or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to manifest here.
Yeah, he's a really good coach. His situation was not his doing. It was not. And you and I talked last week about Bob Huggins, and that's a unique situation unto itself. But DeVries at West Virginia, and is it Pat Kelsey at Oklahoma State? Why am I blanking?
No, it's what's his name? Steve
Lutz.
Right?
Steve Lutz.
Yeah.
Steve Lutz.
Yeah. It's fine.
So what do you? I'm disappointed in myself. Pat Kelsey left Charleston.
He's at
Louisville. Yeah, there were so many. And then this week, like I spent 72 hours going, I don't know what my life is going to be like after.
Well, in portal for basketball, it's about to be portal for football. So buckle up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think about those two hires in particular?
Yeah, so I love DeVries for West Virginia. That's a strong one. Just, I mean, you kind of go, same region, right? I mean, and if you watch Drake play, like really just strong team concepts. And I enjoyed watching them. And the guy is from Iowa, right? He was, he went to Northern Iowa, Creighton, Drake, West Virginia. In West Virginia, look, like it's East. If you've ever driven there, it's like kind of East, like it's East Coast adjacent in the mountains. It's one of those like almost, but it's near Pittsburgh and stuff. So like, I think people forget the state of West Virginia is, it touches Maryland, right? And it's part of it's an East Coast state, part of it's almost a Midwest state. So like, he's from that region, which is it's always nice to have a guy from the area. He's another guy. He's below 50, right? So it's good to have a guy who's that age. He's won an NCAA tournament game, which hey, Mark Pope can't say. Never lost more or never won, or he won more than 20 games every single year, right? And so back-to-back tournaments, like this guy's used to winning. Now, here's the thing: every Big 12 coach we get, I'm trying to think if there's been a situation where we've had a Big 12 coach come in who was not. I guess maybe Scott Drew a bit. Like a lot of these guys are used to winning, right? Even Jerome Tang as an assistant was used to winning. So you're going to get these guys, like if you get a Big 12 job, you've most likely won somewhere else. But this team has played really good quality basketball. Like they are always really well built and they've been well constructed and they're consistently winners. I'm wondering if he gets a bump and what kind of player he can get. But here's the thing. I actually think like a lot of even if they don't step up in talent a ton, like even if they took the Raekwon Battle type caliber players and put them on his team, I think they still do really well. Mm-hmm. So I actually don't know if they need a Matt. Like, hey, could he take that same team to the Big 12 and do well? No, probably not. He could take that same team as well. But we saw BYU take a group of mostly guys who were BYU players before and then do pretty well. So if you bump recruiting just a little bit, I still think they'll do pretty well. I'm a little bit more skeptical on Steve Lutz just because where the program is. He's been all over the place though. Like this is a guy, he's in the Texas footprint, so that's nice to have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Greg McDermott guy too. He spent time there, and so he's been all over the place. Corpus Christi, Western Kentucky. Another guy's won a tournament game too, and also another guy's 51 years old. So I'm not familiar as much with this play style. I know I watched a couple of those Corpus teams play in their early games of the tournament. I felt like they were always kind of funnish to watch. So we'll see. I don't know as much about Lutz, but DeVries I'm really excited about because I like the quality of ball they play. It's fun it's at least me entertaining from a not just up and down scoring type deal, but still very, fun to watch.
Yeah. You know who I'm surprised has not gotten a call yet on one of these big jobs is Bucky McMillan from Samford. Right. Like they are fun. They're fun to watch. And if you do what he does and you bring that to a major conference, to me, I think that would create a ton of problems.
So the interesting thing about these like Scorum teams, and it's a good point because I think the guy is 40 years old, so it's really exciting to watch. But what we see in the Big 12 and what you see with UConn, defense. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, what was Kentucky's big problem? They couldn't defend anybody. Yeah. Nobody had a more talented backcourt, though. And they were bringing Reed Shepherd. I saw Reed Shepherd today, by the way, who's considering, he's made contact with Mark Pope, considering coming back. Yeah, we'll see about that. But, Antonio Reeves, Rob Dillingham. DJ Wagner was one of their worst guards, and the guy was, like one of the best recruits in the country. So when you get these Scorum teams, your concern is, all right, where does the defense come into play? And even Baylor, to some extent, like you could argue the reason why they have not been as successful in the tournament since the championship is because the defensive side of things has not been up to snuff. It's hard to be an elite defensive team, but you saw this year at Houston. What did they do? What they hang their hat on? It was their defense. UConn, look, they let Zach Edey eat, sure, but like they just sped the game up and made life miserable for Purdue. And they were able to play that style and affect it on both sides. And that's what these great teams can do is affect that style on both ends. So the one question I think a lot of these coaches or a lot of these basketball ADs, when they consult other people, because basketball and football, you want to consult, but like really basketball, if we're talking about play style, you got to consult some folks about who know ball. And it to me is a challenge when you get the up and down teams, just because teaching guys to score is easy. teaching guys to stop people collectively is really challenging. It is incredibly challenging. And that's what that Baylor team did well. That's what that Chris Beard Texas Tech team did that made the championship. That's what UVA Tony Bennett team did that won the championship. That's what Kansas team that won the championship did. All of these teams, what do they have in common? Really elite defense. And you have to score too, but like the protecting the rim and stopping teams is really what stands out. That's why Alabama, as fun as it was a great run. At the end of the day, like they couldn't stop anybody, and that cost them multiple times this year.
Josh, you live in Arkansas. Coach Cal is there, rolling out the red carpet for him. How effective do you think he'll be early on there for the Hogs?
I mean, I don't know how we got here. I just don't like this was bananas to me. Seeing him in red, there's a video of him practicing calling the Hogs, although he didn't do it as an introductory press conference. And I'll tell you what, Paul, we talked about the hire, but we got more calls this week on the radio about whether or not and why Coach Cal didn't do the hog call at his introductory press conference. That's what we care about in SEC country, brother. I mean, look, John Tyson, the head of Tyson's Chicken, for those of you who don't know, so by the Dino Nuggets, if you want to sports market sell athletics, he dropped the bag for this. I think he was in conversation. He and Cal have been friends for a while, and this is not the first time that he tried to get Cal to Arkansas. And I think it worked out that they had a longer term relationship. It worked out that Cal needed to change. It worked out that Kentucky needed to change, and it worked out that John Tyson stepping up and is going to drop the NIL war chest for basketball. I think his teams will look a lot like Kentucky teams. I love the way Cal empowers his players. I think this is a good opportunity for him to remake a roster and make a roster and think about what he needs to change to make teams better in the tournament, because he has struggled with that. But I think he will be effective because this guy has won at UMass. He won at Memphis, and he won at Kentucky. And he did not forget how to coach.
What does this mean for football that basketball got a big daddy donor to come in and get a big daddy coach if Sam Pittman doesn't get things right in a hurry?
I think it should. So it's a couple of things. The thing that stood out to me, Paul, was at the introductory press conference, they shouted out John Tyson. And I can't think of a time where I saw them say one donor, like, hey, thanks for helping make this happen. It might have been common knowledge that they helped out, but I've never seen that happen before. Mm-hmm. And I think that signals to donors at a place like Arkansas, where there's fewer higher dollar donors, that you can be that center of attention. You can get everything. And for all, of everything I've heard John Tyson's not like a look at me guy, but he'll strongly encourage things. But like there is an opportunity there to be like, hey, I want to shell out this kind of cash. But here's the opposite side of it. This is a program that is in a division with A&M, fired their coach for $70 million. Arkansas, by all accounts, did not fire theirs for roughly 12 to 15, whatever it was, on Sam Pittman, because they could not get, to me is what it sounded like, they could not get donor consensus. Well, they could. It was Gus Malzahn, 100-year check. Said, no, thank you. Yeah. But actually, it was smart because everybody here just loves Gus Malzahn. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's like Jesus and Gus Malzahn are the two most important people in the state here. But they couldn't get consensus. And so my big thing is, it's like, look, this is not A&M where they have a bunch of high-dollar donors who are always competing. It takes one or two people to step up. And when it comes to NIL and it comes to football, like sure, you can get a war chest, but there's no guarantee that just because you pay for a great roster, a la A&M's number one recruiting class of all time, that you can cash the check. It's harder in football. In basketball, I mean, you have a certain level of talent, man, like there's just almost a guarantee you're going to be somewhat good enough.
Yeah.
In football, it's just not there. And so I think the investment in football might get raised because it needs to. I don't know if it will for all the coaching. I'm interested to see, but I think it's interesting to think about, hey, what could a coaching hire like this do in one sport for another sport? I think it's a very fascinating thing because this is going to have an impact on Arkansas football.
Yeah.
And that's one of the most interesting things. And I think this could apply to other schools as well.
Yeah. Either this or this is the sign that they're going to go full basketball school. But I doubt that in that state.
If Petrino coming back and them sucking, they might just be like, it doesn't matter. We're basketball school.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to go cheap on football.
Josh, enjoy the weekend, buddy. Josh Neighbors, Big 12 Watch, Crystal Ball College Football channel, which is one of ours, over on YouTube. Please go like and subscribe. Watch Josh's podcast when he puts it up every day. Josh, thanks a lot, buddy.
Love you, Paul. See you next week.
Love you too, buddy. This is